Today, I'm sitting down with Mike Proctor, a phenomenal salesperson, a phenomenal teacher. We're going to talk about the RPA, and we're going to role play exactly how he does presents the RPA here in San Diego, California, which may be different wherever you're watching. And we're going to go through step by step on how he does it, specifically focusing on a C profile in the DISC profile. Different profiles react differently. Different profiles need to be receive information differently. And so Mike has tailored his presentation for a high D, which we have a video about that on the RPA. But also now we're going to talk about a high C. And before we get into the role play, Kyle, sorry, I'm used to the podcast.
I've been called worse.
Before we get into the role play, Mike, let's talk a little bit about what a high C is in the DISC profile and what actually the DISC profile is.
Yeah. So as we've chatted about before, the DISC profile is 4 separate quadrants of personality traits and behaviors, tendencies within the human behavior. Everybody has all 4, right? But it's been proven that people gravitate towards one quadrant over the other 3 naturally. So within the quadrants, you have the D, the I, the S, and the C. Today, as we're talking about the C, the conscientious quadrant, it's also called the compliant quadrant. And I'm not a big fan of that because it almost makes it sound like subservient. And that's not at all what it is. So I like the conscientious quadrant because they're very cerebral. When I think of it, I think of an engineer. Right. Or like that movie, A Beautiful Mind, right? Like with all the numbers and stuff in their head. Like that's what the C quadrant is in my mind. It's someone that's incredibly cerebral, very thought conscious, and they like to mind their P's and Q's. They really want to make sure and ensure that they get all the data, all the information before making a decision and moving forward.
So you mentioned engineer things, and again, obviously not all engineers are high C's, but that is generally right where you'd go an accountant, people,
physicist, scientist, a nurse.
If their love language is Excel spreadsheets, probably a high C.
My wife.
Okay, yeah. So someone loves the numbers, data, graphs, finds comfort in making decisions based on the data, not on gut feelings or what they think or what they heard. Let me see the numbers. Let me judge it. Let me split test it.
They live in that black and white, yes or no world.
Yes.
Right?
Very
Where
cool.
There is no gray area. You know, they thrive on factual information.
Okay. Tell me, so we kind of talked about it a little bit. What do they like? What do they dislike? And what are they afraid of as we do a 26-page, I think, contract? Maybe they're not so afraid of it because they're
going to be hype.
Yeah,
like, they're going to see this stack of papers and be like, oh, I need to get a cup of coffee for this.
So talk to me a little bit about that as you're presenting. What are you thinking about and how are you trying to appeal to them?
So when you're going into a situation where you know that this person is high C or they lean C, right? What I'm really taking into consideration is this is somebody that loves true factual data. And you brought it up. You were like, oh, somebody that's really into like Excel spreadsheets. Well, the reason people love those Excel spreadsheets is because it's raw, true data. It's accurate. It's true. They can rely on it. They can utilize that to derive their answers.
They live in the realm of certainty, as Tony Robbins talks about. They love certainty. Uncertainty freaks them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
And they find security within certainty.
Mm-hmm.
They fear being wrong.
Mm.
If the data isn't enough, if the information isn't quite what they wanted, they're going to have hesitancy moving forward.
And now this differs from how you would present this, and we'll do it in a minute. It differs from a high D, where the high D you want main bullet points. When I send an email to Kyle, it's one sentence, 2 or 3 bullet points, 1 sentence. If I were to send it to a high C, it would be see attached graphs. Here's the Excel spreadsheet. Here, a paragraph.
Here's me proving my work.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
Don't
great.
take me at face value.
Yep.
Right? Like, we're going to do this based upon our numbers being lower from last month. That's what you would send to Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
And Kyle would be like, oh, okay. But that high C, when I send it to you, you're going to be like, what numbers from last month are you referring to? Where did you pull them from? How did you get them? And if I were to send that to you with the information that proves my statement, you're going to be like, oh, now I'm confident moving forward.
Yep.
Right? Because you need that data, you need that certainty to make sure that you're not going to make the wrong decision.
Now, I'm curious what you'll say here because I don't know. But let's put a face to the name. Can you think of any public figures that? Ooh, I think I have one.
So I have three.
Oh, good. So my question is public figures that are
so face
a high
to the
C.
name, right? Yeah. So one of them is a real person. The other two are fictitious characters, but they're so popular being fictitious. I'm absolutely certain everybody is going to know who they are.
God, I hope I know.
So the first one is Bill Gates.
Okay.
So there are stories of how during meetings, Bill Gates would need to be like proven to move forward. So he would need his board to go into the most great detail and like to the extreme nth degree to prove their case before Bill Gates would sign off on something.
Okay.
That is a C to a T, right? Aha. Now we get to the fictitious characters. Mr. Spock.
Okay. Yep.
Who will not do anything because he needs logic and reason in order to move forward. And if it doesn't, if it's an emotional based query, if it's an emotional based reaction, it doesn't even compute to him. It doesn't make sense because logic and ration would say this. That's a C.
Got it.
And that's not to say that all C's are absent of emotion, right?
Of course.
Like,
this is extreme.
Yes. And then what I think is the most beautiful depiction of a high C, because this person has emotion. This person has friends. This person is off the charts with their C-ness. Sheldon Cooper.
Oh, good call. Good call.
This person has to be right. They cannot be wrong. And they will go to the farthest lengths of the earth to prove that they are right. They find themselves Sheldon in particular finds himself superior to all others because of his rightness.
Of his intellect. Yes.
Precisely.
Yep.
And he thrives in the realm of data, statistics, and numbers. And he utilizes those to prove how correct he is. And he finds certainty in that. So those are three people I would say depict the C.
I thought of one more as we were talking. Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh, 100% yes. Cool. He is interesting though, because he is also very I.
Very I, which is odd.
Awkward.
Yes.
Right? So yeah,
he's
I'm with
an odd
you.
One. Okay, so now we know what a C is. If you like this, if you're enjoying this, you're like, this I need more of, we'll have in the comments down below a list of a YouTube playlist where we do a bunch of different disc profile stuff, some with Mike, some with Rachel, that we've done throughout the years. So really, if you want to dive into that, we talk about that all the time at Whissel, to the point where it's ingrained and people are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I forgot. So if you want more of that, just check in the comment or in the description down below. There's gonna be a link to that.
Awesome.
That being said, Mike, let's go into role play. We're talking about the RPA, the Residential Purchase Agreement.
Yep.
You're gonna show how you would explain it to a high C.
Okay.
Now we're in California. Our things are slightly different or vastly different than some places.
Yeah.
But I think you're still gonna be able to learn a lot of the presentation, on what he breaks down, on how he presents it. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. Kind of setting the scene. We've already toured the home. You're in love with the home. We've identified you want to purchase the home. You have provided me with the details of what you want your offer to be constructed as. I've created the offer. Now we're sitting down to review it before I submit it to the seller.
And do you recommend sitting down and doing this with someone, or just sending it via DocuSign and say, do it your own?
Do I have to answer that? Because that's rhetorical.
I was hoping you'd be like, it doesn't, I was hoping you wouldn't say, it doesn't matter.
This is a 20-page document that's filled with legalese, verbiage, and full of redundancies. And it is going to be overwhelming, confusing, and like it's going to instill fear if you just send it over for them to sign the 17 places they need to sign and the 26 places they need to initial. I would highly recommend that you meet with them in person so that you can walk them through what this is.
Perfect.
And you can facilitate any questions they have throughout the process. Because as the agent, it's my job to be the expert at everything I'm about to have you sign. I am responsible for protecting you through this. And I feel it's a breach of my fiduciary duty if I were to just email this to you and be like, sign it, send it back. I'm going to watch TV. No way, right? No, I'm here to like figuratively and emotionally hold your hand through this to make sure that you have that certainty that you're looking for.
But not literally.
I'll literally hold your hand, Brian. I wanted to be in front though.
I took it front.
No, I don't want to do this anymore.
Let's get into it.
Okay, awesome. So, Brian, appreciate you taking the time, man. I've got everything that you emailed me over. I appreciate the graph and the pie chart that you sent over. I love it.
It wasn't too much?
No, it helped me craft exactly what you were looking for.
Okay, good.
Okay, so as we go through this, take your time. I'm sure you're going to want to read through it as we go. I've got all afternoon. Take your time with it.
Cool.
Okay. So you're going to notice the first 6 pages are statutory disclosures. They don't have to do with our purchase in specific. They have to do with a purchase in California in general.
Okay.
Okay. So if you're going to be looking for specifics about your purchase, you won't find them in the first 6 pages.
Okay.
Fair?
Do I do this if we make an offer on a different house?
Yep. We're going to. So the nice thing is,
that's good.
The good thing is as we submit offers, you're going to get more and more familiar with this because it's the exact same stack of documents every single time. And if this first one doesn't pan out, we'll shift gears. We'll go to the next one and you're going to get much more familiar with this.
Got it.
Is that fair?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Okay. So this first page, it's the disclosure of real estate agency relationship. And you're going to see here, it's going to go over the agency for a seller's agent, which has to do with the agent that's representing the seller.
Mm-hmm.
But then, of course, we have our relationship, which is the buyer's agent relationship, and what my responsibilities are to make sure that you're taken care of. So if you'd like, take your time, read through here so you know what to expect from me.
Okay, got it.
And then, of course, you have this here where agency representing both the buyer and the seller. Now, I'm not representing this seller, but if I was, this would pertain to us.
Okay.
And then, of course, the seller and the buyer responsibilities. So what is expected of you as the buyer and what is expected of them as the seller.
That's it? This is it?
This is it, yeah.
Okay.
So one of the nice things about purchasing a home in California is through these 20 pages, you will see a lot of redundancy because California, it's incredibly important that we drive home the point and instill in you as the client what is expected of you, what is expected of me, of the broker. So this won't be the only time we're going to review this. This is about 4 or 5 different times throughout the stack.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Cool.
So do you have any questions about any of this?
Nope, that's great.
Perfect. Autograph, date there at the bottom. Now, this actually has to do with the civil code of agency in the state of California. If you are curious about what specific expectations the state has with regards to laws around agency, This will go over the exact statutes.
Gotcha.
So if you'd like to review this, you're welcome to do it now, but you are getting a copy of this. So you're welcome to review that on your own time as well.
Sounds like great dinner material. Do it later.
Love it. Okay, perfect. This page here has to go over the Fair Housing and Discrimination Advisory. This is actually one of the newest advisories and disclosures in the purchase agreement. So what we found is during COVID, people were home, sellers were home during buyer tours. So they were able to see the people that were submitting offers for their homes, which unfortunately brought out some bad eggs. They were making decisions based upon these protected classes on who could or couldn't purchase their home, which is ridiculous. And this form here is going to go over in much more detail for you as the buyer what to expect from the seller in regards to fair housing and them not being discriminatory.
Gotcha. I understand. Okay.
Okay. So,
and there's a lot here.
There is. One of the beautiful things about living and purchasing homes in California is there is two different levels. You have a federal level of protected classes, but then here in California, we actually have the most protected classes out of any other state. It supersedes federal and any other state level. So you as a buyer are more protected here than you are anywhere else.
Wonderful.
Excellent. So take your time, read through the expectations. It gives some examples of unlawful and improper conduct, just so that way you're much more in the know.
Awesome. Yeah, this looks all makes sense.
Perfect. This goes over a continuation of that. More examples of, positive practices, because we don't want to just focus on the negative. Fair housing resources that you have access to. Then just autograph date there at the bottom when you're ready.
Sure.
So we spoke a little on redundancies earlier.
Yeah.
This page specifically goes into more detail about agency disclosure and agency expectation. So this goes over, it says the possible representation of more than one buyer or seller. So you can see here, as the buyer's agent, your agent, I do have the ability to work with other buyers. We get along great, but Brian, you're not my only client.
Makes sense.
So I may find another buyer that wants to offer on the same property. I do have the ability to represent them on that purchase as well.
Okay.
Okay. It's important that we have all the, cards on the table.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is I won't tell them the specifics about your offer, nor will I tell you the specifics about their offer. I will keep yours confidential with me. Theirs will be confidential with me as well.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
So you can see dual agency. This is where, as we spoke earlier, if I'm representing the seller and the buyer, or someone from my brokerage is representing the seller and we are the buyer, that's considered dual agency. It's when the same brokerage represents both sides of a transaction.
Now tell me more about that. Is that like, I know some friends that are in different states and they said that's illegal.
That is absolutely true. California, it is legal.
Okay.
I do have the ability to do that. And that's why I disclose it right up front.
Okay.
I'm like, we're not even in a contract with anything yet, but I want to make sure that we are on the same page. And this just simply states that by considering dual agency, it is the brokerage that represents both sides of a transaction that constitutes dual agency.
Gotcha.
Not necessarily just the agent.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. And then this portion here, one thing that I would like to share with you, I've gotten some feedback in the past. Buyers feel sometimes that when they submit an offer, the details of their offer cannot be shared from that seller, right? So that is not necessarily confidential information. I won't share the details of your offer with other buyers.
Okay.
But the listing agent, they do have the ability to get that permission from the seller.
Okay.
Okay. So if they want to take your offer and then shop it around against other buyers, they do have that ability.
Is that done often or?
It is a practice. I don't know if I would necessarily call it often.
Okay.
But I just want to make sure that in full disclosure, you know that the details of your offer, once provided to the seller, they're no longer considered confidential.
Now they're not going to have like my social or
oh goodness,
anything
no.
of that.
No,
stuff.
just the information as far as like purchase price,
Okay.
days, offered for escrow, things like that.
Got it.
Once you've reviewed it, any questions, just autograph date there at the bottom.
Cool.
Now, wire fraud is the hottest ticket for scammers right now, unfortunately. And it is something that is important enough for me to slow down and make sure that you truly understand the risk involved. Okay. So throughout the process, there are going to be a couple times where you are contacted by escrow in order to wire funds into the transaction. One at the very beginning with the earnest money deposit.
Oh, yeah. Yep. You talked about that.
And then one near the end where you send your closing funds. Right.
Okay.
The nuts and bolts of it, when you get that communication, please contact me directly. I will confirm the validity of the information prior to you submitting any wire information. Because I want to make sure that I protect you from ever sending your money to a scammer so that they can go buy a house with your money.
Got it.
Okay, so take your time, read through the details here. Let me know if you have any questions.
So yeah, don't call the phone number that was emailed. Just use the one before.
Call me.
Okay.
Call me.
Okay, got it.
Call me.
And the number that I have saved in my phone is good.
That's exactly the point.
Okay.
Because you and I are already in communication. I will then confirm they sent the email. These are the wire instructions. I will even 3-way call to get them on the phone with you.
Okay, good.
So I will just take the scammer out of the situation completely.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Does that make you feel more comfortable?
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Autograph date there at the bottom. Right. We're moving and grooving.
All right.
We're already into the offer.
Man, already. I might want to look at those again later, but
you're going to get a full copy of
okay,
everything.
good.
Okay. So, and then later down the line, this evening, tomorrow, if you're reviewing and you come up with additional questions, I'm going to be here for you. So
perfect.
No rush whatsoever. Now, this goes over the details of the individual offer, right? So you got the property details here at the top. Let's make sure the address is correct, the city, the zip code. Does everything look correct?
Yep.
Okay. I pulled the APN number, the associate parcel number. I pulled that right off a tax record.
Okay.
Okay. So I did confirm that 2 or 3 times to ensure that it is accurate.
Perfect.
And I want to make sure we're buying the right property.
Is there something I can look that up to as well?
I'll actually email you the property profile from the county records office.
Not that I don't trust you.
No, absolutely not. I want to make sure that we're all always on the same page.
Yeah.
Down here, it goes over who is representing whom, right? So this brokerage is the one that represents the seller.
Okay.
This is my brokerage, EXP. We're the ones that represent you through the transaction.
Got it.
Okay. You made the best decision here possible.
Perfect.
That's a joke. That's a joke.
So I didn't?
They didn't. You did.
Okay.
So this information down here, this is where we get into the actual nuts and bolts of the offer you had me craft for you.
Yeah.
So this information all pertains to what you emailed me as for what you wanted the offer to review as. So you can see the purchase price. You asked for $850,000. Okay. Close of escrow. You wanted a 30-day escrow.
Yep.
The initial deposit, you can see here, it's 3% of the purchase price.
Yep.
And that won't have to be submitted into escrow until after the offer is accepted.
Okay.
You'll have 3 days after the offer is accepted to get that submitted into escrow.
Okay.
Now, these next couple boxes are going to go over the details of your loan.
Wait, before we go on to that,
Take
this
your time.
Initial deposit, if I don't end up buying the house, can I get that back?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it. You're like 2 steps ahead of me.
Okay, good.
Okay. So what that has to do with is contingencies. That's on the next page. We're going to get there in just a minute.
Perfect.
But put a pin in it. We'll get to that question in just a second. I love it. So this next portion here goes over the details of the loan that you're going to be utilizing to purchase the property. So you can see the type of loan here, FHA, VA, seller financing, right? We're using conventional. The details here in the middle box is going to go over what percentage down and then what percentage is being financed.
Yep.
Right? You can see here it goes over more specifics with if you wanted to increase your deposit later into the escrow. We're not going to be doing that, but it's a general form for all offers in California. So they have a box for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. And then down here, you can see the balance of the down payment. That's going to be due right near the end of the escrow period.
Okay.
And then the total purchase price is here at the bottom.
Perfect.
Does Does everything look accurate to you?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Initial there in the corner. This portion here is going to be going over if we're getting any seller credits, which we're not getting right now.
Okay.
Which is why that's all blank.
Okay.
Okay. This portion here, this is where it gives us 3 days to submit our verification of funds. This is where we're going to send in bank statements or 401k statement showing that you do have the funds available for the initial deposit and the down payment with your closing costs.
And so I send this to the seller.
You're going to send this to me.
Okay.
And then I send it to the listing agent.
Okay. And they can't disclose that though, right?
To other people, no. They'll give it to their seller.
Okay.
Right? Because if you were selling your home, you want to make sure that people have the money to pay for it.
Yep.
So
I get that.
yeah, that's what that is there for. Okay. This is the portion you had just asked me about, right? You're like, hey, if we don't end up buying the house, do I get that initial deposit back?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you can see here, all these time frames have to do with contingencies. Your contingencies are the time in which you have to do your inspections, to solidify your loan, to get the appraisal done. And from the information that you gather from your inspections, if anything in there throws up red flags to the point where you don't want to purchase the home anymore, as long as we are within that time frame, that's 17 days, we send over a cancellation utilizing the inspection contingency, we get the earnest money back.
Okay, good.
Okay. There's one for the appraisal. So let's say the appraisal comes in at 800, even though we offered 850. The seller's not looking to reduce down to 800 and they're sticking their heels in the ground at 850. Here's our cancellation notice utilizing the appraisal contingency. We walk away with the earnest money in pocket.
Got it.
Okay. I don't foresee this one ever happening, but if something were to happen with the loan, okay, for whatever reason, we didn't lock the rate or whatever reason, okay, if the loan doesn't happen and doesn't come to fruition and the loan gets denied, we then be able to remove ourselves with the earnest money and utilize the loan as the contingency.
Okay.
Okay, so you have 3 layers of protection through this process to ensure that by the 17th day, you know your loan is ironclad, the appraisal is where it needs to be, and you have satisfied everything you needed for your inspections. We remove that contingency at that time and move forward with closing.
Good.
Does that make you feel more confident?
Absolutely.
Love it. Okay. This portion here goes over the time for possession. So right now we've got a 30-day escrow. You can see time of possession. You'll be taking possession at 6 p.m. the day we close escrow.
Okay.
Okay. There is no tenant in place, which is what the next one has to do with. So that doesn't have to do with our situation. This last portion down here has to do with how long the seller has to provide us with their documentation, because there's disclosures that we're going to get from the seller, and this has the time frames on when we can expect those from them.
Okay.
Any questions on this page?
Nope.
Beautiful. Initial here at the bottom. Excellent. Now, as we walked through the property, I remember you had identified a handful of items that you wanted to make sure they convey with the property. One was the stove, refrigerator. As we go through these boxes here, these are the ones that are supposed to be conveying. If there's anything that I missed, go ahead and just check the box next to it so we can make sure that that's included.
No, that's right.
Excellent. Okay. And like I said, thank you for the detailed email. That helped me tremendously in this portion right here.
Oh, good. And the pictures helped with the
yes,
pictures?
the pictures were perfect.
And the link to the Amazon item as well?
Yes, so that we knew the price.
Yep.
Exactly. We can hold them accountable if they take them.
Yes.
The next portion is an allocation of costs, because as we've talked about, there are closing costs involved in purchasing a home.
Yeah.
This is who pays for what when it comes to closing costs.
Okay.
Here's the best part about it. You notice it's the seller's box that's checked most of the time.
Yeah.
The seller is responsible for the lion's share of closing costs.
Okay.
On the buy side, you can see that each is paying their own portion of the escrow.
Okay.
But outside of that, the seller's paying for the remainder of the closing costs.
Now I see down here other terms. Are there other things we should be adding here?
So in our situation, there isn't anything that we're adding to it. Sometimes there will be a need for additional terms when it comes to purchasing a property. Like I've had some clients that wanted to include termite clearance, right? We're going to get a termite report as part of our inspections. They haven't gotten one done yet. So I think it would be preliminary for us to add that because it's a question mark on what it's going to cost.
Got it.
Right. Sometimes you would add in there if you wanted some type of special seller credit or something like that. So additional terms that aren't just pre-printed into the agreement, we would handwrite them in here.
Okay.
Okay. And for our agreement, it wasn't applicable, which is why that shows up blank.
Got it.
Okay. Just initial there at the bottom. All right. So from this point moving forward, we're back into the statutory disclosure area.
Okay.
This has to do with purchasing a home in California and not necessarily just the home you're submitting the offer on. Okay.
Makes sense.
So you can see if there are any specific property type addenda, the box would be checked here.
Yeah, there's a lot of boxes not checked. Are we missing any of these?
Love that question. So you can see there are a couple that are checked.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones that pertain to our purchase. The ones that are not checked do not pertain to this home in particular.
Okay.
Okay.
That makes sense.
They tried to keep us from having to print additional pages by just putting all these on. So we would just click those boxes if they were applicable.
Got it.
Okay. If there are additional terms that are affecting the purchase, there's some terms here that would break that down. So you can see like an all cash offer, which is not what ours is.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a loan. Some people have like a first loan and a second loan position. This goes into more detail about that. This gives a breakdown of like FHA and VA loans. And if you are utilizing one of those, there's a separate addendum that comes along with that.
Okay. But we're conventional.
Precisely. Lenders do have limits of credit that a buyer is able to use. And this goes over more details on what those credit limits might be.
Mm-hmm.
This here goes over that you are responsible for verification of your payment, your down payment, your closing costs. And again, like I said, just redundant to make sure that what we went over on this page about timelines on verifying, that it does say you are responsible for verifying that information.
Okay.
Okay, initials there.
Easy.
We are not using stated financing, so this portion here is not pertaining to our specific situation. The property is not a condo or a planned unit development, so it's not related to that as well. So seller remaining in possession, this would be if the seller stayed in the home after we closed escrow. Again, not in our situation. As it goes over more loan information, take your time, read through this. It's going to give you a little bit more detail on the impact of utilizing a loan, the process of that loan, having a loan contingency, and the appraisal, the impact of the appraisal, and the loan and the appraisal contingency as well.
Okay.
Okay. Section C here, investigations of a property and your responsibilities of reviewing those inspections and utilizing those in that contingency period. Just initials there at the bottom. So buyer review of any leased or liened items. Luckily, this property doesn't have any leased or liened items, so that portion doesn't pertain to us. When it comes to removing your contingencies or cancellation, they do not get removed automatically.
Okay.
So when it comes to the end of the contingency period, you and I are going to sit down, review the information. Once you are satisfied, we will fill out a form to remove the contingency.
Good. Okay.
Okay. And Brian, if I'm going too fast, slow me down.
No, it's great.
Okay.
I like
if
this.
you have any questions, please let me know. Because
I'm a really fast reader.
I know you are. And I feel like I might be slowing you down. So I just want to make sure that you're comfortable as we're moving through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. So items included and excluded from the sale. I'm sure you're going to really like this part because they've actually pre-itemized general items that are along with a home that are expected to just convey.
Good.
Okay. And then you can see here at the bottom, if it's not in this list, we would have to itemize it.
We would do that back on that one.
Precisely.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. You're paying attention. We're on the same page. Okay. So these items here are expected to convey unless handwritten otherwise.
Cool.
And then here you can see it goes over leased and liened items and systems again. So again, just obligatory disclosure. Initial there at the bottom. This goes over excluded items, like normally excluded items. This reiterates that allocation of costs, right? And it specifies which paragraphs and sections go over who pays
good.
for what. So that way, if you get to this section and you don't remember, go to those sections and it'll give you a breakdown of what those allocation of costs are.
Perfect.
You can see through here, you've got point of sale requirements. Any reimbursement, reinspection fees are actually, let's say the appraiser goes out and identifies things that need to be done before we can close escrow. The inspector has to go back out. The appraiser has to go back out. This section here actually specifies the seller is responsible for paying for that.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
Good.
So it's important that you understand that. Home warranty, we are asking for the seller to provide us with that home warranty. And then statutory and general disclosures that we should expect to come from the seller. There's two specific disclosures that will come from the seller. One is the TDS, Transfer Disclosure Statement, and one is the SPQ, the Seller Property Questionnaire.
Okay.
Sections 1 through 4 down here give you a much more detailed breakdown of the general statutory disclosures we should expect from the seller side.
Good.
Okay, take your time, read through. Once you're ready, initial at the bottom.
All right. Read. Check.
This is a continuation of disclosures that we should expect from the seller side. So you've got, lead-based paint disclosures, home fire, hardening disclosure, defensive space disclosure.
Gotcha.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Withholding taxes, all that, just general natural hazard disclosure, right? So take your time, read through this. Initials there at the bottom.
Read. Check. That's how I read. I
You-
have to say it out loud to
You
let you know
are
I'm reading.
a much faster reader than I am. So the seller is required to provide us any known material facts about the property. So you can rest assured legally they are expected and will be providing us with anything that they actually know about the home.
And if they don't?
Then they are liable.
Okay.
And you and I will go after them. Because
Perfect.
I am on your side here. So it's you and me against the world, Brian. Buyer's investigations and material facts that affect the property. This section here, section 12, goes over your expectations and responsibilities for inspections. Okay, so we'll get a preliminary title report. You can get a home inspection. There's quite a lot of different types of inspections that you as the buyer are capable and able to get.
Now, I don't know any of these people.
Of course, and I wouldn't expect you to. And I have trusted inspectors that I've used in the past that I will refer to you. At the end of the day, whomever you would like to use is fine.
Okay.
Okay, and
Cool.
I'll help you navigate through that.
Thank you.
So take your time, read through this. Once you're ready, initial there at the bottom. As we spoke about earlier, there's time periods affecting contingencies. When we get to the end of those time periods, it is our responsibility to remove the contingency.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what this is going over here.
It's 14 there. Okay.
14, yep. So seller has specific timeframes on delivering their documents to us, and then it goes over the specific paragraphs and sections that pertains to what those seller disclosures need to be.
Okay.
So this portion here on section 14B, this has to do with the buyer review of those documents. So once we receive documents, we then have 3 days to review them. That actually gives us additional contingency period.
Oh, good.
So if they give us those documents on day 17 of our contingency, well, we then have 3 additional days to review those documents before removing any contingency.
And are those business days or?
Those are consecutive days.
Okay.
Yep, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. These next sections have to do with the buyer's right to cancel and the seller's right to cancel.
So wait, they can cancel on me?
They can. So let's say we get to the end of our contingency period and we just don't remove our contingency. Well, we are expected to. We are contractually obligated to follow these timelines. If we breach the timeline, the seller then has steps that they can take to kick us out of the escrow.
Now, will they get to keep my money?
No.
Okay.
No, and it actually says that specifically in here when it talks about the notice to perform, the demand to close, and the next step would be canceling the escrow. If the seller is canceling the escrow on us for not performing on our contingency, they will kick us out of the escrow, but it's with our deposit.
Okay.
So, and I'm here to kind of orchestrate and make sure we're on our timeline. So it's not something you're going to have to really hawkeye. I will be paying attention to that.
Okay,
you can
good.
rely on me for that. And then, of course, your right to cancel has to do with those contingencies.
Mhm.
During the inspection period, you utilize the inspection results, we can cancel. The appraisal doesn't come in where we want it to, we can utilize that and cancel. Our loan doesn't go through, we can utilize that and cancel, all of which we get to keep the deposit.
Okay.
Okay, just initials there at the bottom. And this is the vehicle that either side is going to use when the other side is not adhering to their timelines. So the notice of buyer or seller to perform.
Okay.
If the seller's not responding to a request we've made, if the seller's not moving out, right? Like we submit a notice to perform,
Okay.
right? If we're not removing our contingency on time, they submit a notice to perform. We then have a specific time frame that's outlined on that form to respond and to do the performance of whatever that activity is. If we don't perform within that time frame, that entity then has the legal ability to cancel the escrow.
Okay.
Okay. So repairs, if we ever get to a point where we're agreeing to get repairs done on the property, those all have to be done before escrow closes.
Oh, good. Good. Good.
Okay. There is no obligation on the seller to agree to repairs. Properties sold in California are sold as is.
Okay.
Okay. So as long as we understand that walking in, anything that we get them to approve is going to be a win.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then again, this is something that I will oversee to ensure that they are done before we close escrow. So we will do a final verification of the condition of the property just before we close to confirm that everything has been done and the property's in the same condition of when we first walked through it.
Got it.
Okay. Again, this goes over broker responsibilities and scope of work. Just go ahead and read through that. Autograph there at the bottom or initials at the bottom when you're done.
Can you tell me more about this compensation?
Oh, yeah. So this here simply states that the seller is paying the listing agent, who is then paying me to represent you.
I like that.
So in this transaction, because of the seller providing the commission through the listing agent, you're not paying my commission directly.
I like that.
Absolutely.
Cool.
So initials there at the bottom. Section 19 is the joint escrow instructions, AKA, this is the instructions that the escrow company is going to follow to ensure that everything is done appropriately. They take the information from these sections and paragraphs.
Over there. Yep.
Precisely. And they make the escrow timeline based upon that. Okay. If you want to get into the really nitty gritty details of exactly what their expectations are, sections A through G are going to go over that for you. So take your time, read through those. Down here, it does go into what the MLS is, and that's where we found the property on the MLS. It goes over attorney fees and costs. Now in California, we don't utilize attorneys to close escrows. There are some states that do. So if
I love that this is a California residential purchase agreement. And
if you wanted to utilize, I mean, there are real estate attorneys. So if you wanted to utilize one to get that involved, to get involved in the closing, those fees and associated costs are something you would be taking on your own.
Okay.
Section 22 does say that you have the ability to assign your rights to
23.
this purchase. Excuse me, 23. You are correct. Section 23 does say that you, as the purchaser, the buyer in this contract, have the ability to assign your rights as the buyer to anyone you want within this time frame.
Okay.
Okay. And specifically paragraph 3K goes over that for you.
Yep.
Okay. Just initials there at the bottom. I think you're going to like this part.
Let's go.
There are some terms and specific vernacular that we're going to use throughout the escrow period.
Oh, I already looked this up before we started.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
But now you have it in print
Yeah.
as part of your actual RPA.
Okay.
Okay. So this is going to go over very commonly used terms and what they mean for our specific purchase.
Okay.
All right. So I really wanted to make sure that you got a copy of this because I know you're going to like it as much as I do.
Yep.
Terms and conditions of the offer are only what's written in the offer. If there's ever been any text, email, verbal communication between you and the seller, none of that is applicable because it's not in this offer.
Okay.
Okay. So it's important that you understand the terms and conditions of the offer are only what is within the offer.
Okay.
Time is of the essence. Whenever we have the opportunity, we need to act upon the information we are provided. Okay. We can't just put things off until later.
Okay.
All right. You are signing here that you have the legal authority to represent yourself in this purchase.
Yes.
So initials there at the bottom. This portion has to do with liquidated damages, mediation, and arbitration. Okay, so liquidated damages. This is your initial deposit goes into escrow, and then you move to Tahiti and never talk to anybody ever again. You never canceled the escrow. You just left. Your deposit is going to get forfeit as liquidated damages to the seller.
Understood. I don't like
Please
the beach.
don't do that to me.
Don't worry.
If there's ever a point in the process where we come to a disagreement with the seller on something and we can't come to terms, that has nothing to do with just buying and selling the home, right? If there's something that's a problem, we would go to mediation first.
Okay.
If mediation cannot resolve the problem, we then go to arbitration. Arbitration will solve the problem.
Understood.
Okay. Initials 3 times there. Bottom.
Thank you.
And you're set. And as we pointed out at the first page of the offer itself, the offer is good for 3 days.
Yes.
Okay. After 3 days, the offer expires. So we do expect the seller to respond within 3 days. They do not have an obligation to respond. Trust me, I'll be emailing, texting, and calling that listing agent to get information, but they're not obligated to respond to us.
Understood.
Okay. I will be the squeaky wheel. I promise. We are purchasing this as a person, not as an entity. So this section here doesn't pertain to us. I just need your autograph here saying that this is the appropriate offer for you. This is where I get to sign as your agent. Now, in that vein of full disclosure, California wants to make sure that you are aware, buyer investigation advisory, of the plethora of different investigative options you have as a buyer through the escrow process. Okay, so section 3 here, A through K, this is going to give you an idea of the different aspects of the property you could investigate.
Can you talk to me a little more about number 2, broker's obligations?
Yeah, so what this says is, as the broker, as the agent, our scope of work is very limited when it comes to investigations. What we know of properties, what we know of fire hazard defense areas, what we know of Megan's Law, things like this, it's out of our scope of work. We can't be held responsible for things that we don't know.
That's why you keep telling me to talk to a CPA.
Yes.
Got it.
I am not a tax professional. Right? So
Okay.
that's what this goes over. Just
And
get
I
your
don't need to
autograph
sign that.
there.
Just here.
Correct. Fair Appraisal Act. This simply states that appraisals need to be done in accordance to the Fair Housing and Non-Discrimination Act.
Yeah, we talked
Right.
about that page 1 or 2.
Yep. And appraisers are held to the same standard.
Okay.
Okay. So the appraisal is going to have to be done based upon the value of the home as it relates to the other homes in the area. Okay. And
Makes
that's all
sense.
that this says. Just autograph there. Perfect. And then the last page here, Brian, this goes over the California Consumer Privacy Act. We are not going to sell your information or provide your information to any third party. Okay. However, when you purchase home in California, it is public information. Everyone will know how much you bought it for, your name, the name of the person that sold it for you or sold it, and how much they made from selling it.
Mm.
That's all public information. So after you move in, you're going to get a ton of mail. You're going to get a ton of phone calls. So be ready.
Got it.
Okay. And just know it wasn't us that gave it away. It's public record that you're now a homeowner and everybody loves a new homeowner. Okay.
Got it.
So autograph date there at the bottom. So like I said, I'm going to do a full scan of this, get it emailed over to you so you have a copy, an electronic copy that you can have forever. Is there any other questions that you had about it before we break up today?
I think that's it.
Excellent. I'm going to go get this scanned in. I'm going to get this submitted, and we're going to start the negotiation.
Appreciate it, Mike.
Thank you.
Whew.
C is a bit different than D.
C is a bit different than D. So if you watch this one and you watch the D version, this one went about twice as long.
Yeah.
Because we went in a lot more. I obviously asked a lot more questions, which a high C would do.
Yes.
And Mike went in a lot more step by step. Now, a few things that I want to point out. One, he talked about, but we didn't really show for the sake of time. We talked about, Mike said, hey, feel free, read it. A lot of times when you're presenting it to a high C, they will sit back and read it. And
without question. They are going to take it away from you and they're going to read it.
And so know that if you're going into this and you know ahead of time that you're working with a high C, that it's going to take a little longer. You need to make sure you're in the state, because I don't know if you are at the same spot I am, but I'm like, let's go. And I'm like, no. I'm not like that. As a high C, I'm not supposed to be that way. And so if you're feeling that sense of let's go, let's do this, make sure, like Mike did, don't put that on your client. Mike did a great job of not being like, hurry up, I got a 3 o'clock. Like, he did a really great job of that. So make sure that if I started sensing that from him, it would obviously put me off. So Mike, I want to commend you for that.
Thank you.
If someone has more questions, they want to dive deeper into either this or disc profile. Like I said, that disc profile, there's going to be a bunch of videos in a playlist down below. But if they want to connect with you directly on real estate, on coaching, on anything, is that something you're open to?
Oh my, yeah, that would be awesome. I was looking for new friends. Or if you're just coming to San Diego and want to hang out, like, hit me up. So you could hit me up on Instagram at the Mike Proctor.
Okay.
Like you said, you and I have done a handful of videos on YouTube.
Yep.
And I'm Facebook. Like, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. Yeah, hit me up. That'd be great.
Cool. Mike, I appreciate you doing this. I think this is going to be massively valuable for those that made it all the way through. I know you have been taking notes, and I appreciate you committing yourself to bettering yourself at your craft. It's not enough to just, oh yeah, I read through the RPA once. Of sitting through and learning this and how to present it differently.
Totally.
It's amazing, and you're doing a great job, and I know that you're going to service your clients better, whether in California or not. Even more power to you if you're in Idaho or Florida, and you're watching the California RPA, but learning about it.
Totally. Yeah. At the end of the day, it comes down to understanding the communication style of the person you are speaking to, because it's our responsibility to adjust our communication to meet their needs, right? We shouldn't be a one size fits all. We should be able to.
So you should be a one size fits all. No.
No, quite the opposite.
You're right.
Like, we should be versatile.
Yes, I was wrong.
We should adjust. But no, I appreciate you trying to call me out. But no, like, we should be able to adjust and pivot and change our communication style to fit their need, because they're going to digest it so much better. And we are going to get so much deeper into rapport and trust with that individual. And they're going to feel liked and appreciated and wanted, which is just going to make the relationship better. So,
absolutely.
No, I'm a huge advocate of how you deliver this, because it just, there's lawsuits going on right now in the world that I think if we delivered this way more often, there would be less of those.
True. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching, and go out there and crush it.
Heck yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Right on, brother.